I went from 4,000 milligrams of Keppra and 500 milligrams of Zonogram, that is above and beyond the max already that I'm supposed to be on. I'm completely off the Zonogram. And then the Keppra, I am down to 2,000 currently. My doctor has given me permission to lower it again, but I'm just waiting for that right time.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel any negative side effects from it anymore. A lot of the auras and panic attacks and anxiety and depression, everything I was feeling were actually the side effects from the medication.
Wow.
So both of us are doing well. I take care of my mom here, who is technically legally blind, and she has a little bit of eyesight left. So her being on keto, it's affect her as well. Her eyesight that she has left has been able to stay longer than they expected. She reversed her non-alcoholic fatty liver. She's lost weight. So yeah, our whole family, we just eat this way and thrive.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SuperSetYourLife.com podcast. This is your weekly dose of inspiration, entertainment, and education to fuel your life inside and beyond the gym. Two quick things before we get started is, number one, we do not accept any donations for this show, but if you would like to support us, we do invite you to SuperSetYourLife.com, where you will find our original patented Skullbellz line of skull-themed weightlifting equipment, apparel, premium health and bodybuilding supplements, and as of lately, Skullbellz coffee, which is actually blackfin coffee with a Skullbellz logo on the label. It's pretty cool. PNW-based small batch roasting company that we've been supporting for the last year in an effort to contribute to their mission to save the orcas. So all of the coffee purchases that are run through our website help support this environmental cause. You can do that. You can enjoy some darn good coffee while you're at it. All right, and then the second thing, last thing real quick, is I want to highlight 3 customer reviews from this last week before we jump into the interview. Number one is actually on the coffee, which was just Sherry Norman from Washougal, Washington, saying, "Got the coffee, love it, can't wait to order my next batch." So thank you very much, Sherry. All right, and then we have Matthew Hornsby from Mississippi. He just bought a blood red colored deltoid desolator cable attachment with skulls on it. He said, "Dude, just got your package. Thank you. You hooked me up, and the rope is awesome. Nice job." Thanks again for that, Matt. All right, and then this one I thought was super funny. This is from Sela Fernandez. She is out of Puyallup, Washington. She says, she texted Taylor and me and both and says, "Good morning. There is nothing worse than forgetting my rope at home in my other gym bag." Facepalm emoji. "I'm on the fence about buying another one for this very reason now. Do you have a blood red one on hand? I don't feel what I needed with that short rope. I wasn't able to hit my shoulders as well." Great idea, Colton Taylor. That rope makes a huge difference. I got after it with the rest of the workout to make up. So thank you very much, Sela, for that. And yeah, there's nothing worse than forgetting your rope attachment and having to use the cheap one that they have at most commercial gyms. So I always keep an extra one in my truck for that very reason. All right, and that's all the housekeeping for today. So ladies and gentlemen, here we go with Jen Winkler.
All right, guys, Jen Winkler is a wife, mom, and keto carnivore veteran. She has been able to control her epilepsy with a meat-based diet, as well as reversing her PCOS, all while losing 80 pounds. Jen is a coach for busy mamas looking to balance their hormones through a ketogenic diet. You can find her on Instagram at Coach Jen Winkler.
We're excited to get to know you and your story. So welcome, Jen. Welcome to the show. One thing I did want to say before we start is the biggest thing that impacted me on your interview with the Keto Savage, which, as we were talking about before we started recording, we've listened to that both a couple times now and almost brought us to tears towards the end because we were relating on a lot of similar faith and family subjects. But, and by the way, for our listeners, if you haven't listened to that, you should listen to that one first. Listen to her interview on the Keto Savage podcast. We're going to put a link to that in the show notes. But you, towards the end of it, said that instead of preaching this lifestyle of a low-carb diet or a carnivore diet or whatever works best for you, certainly one size doesn't fit all. A lot of people do fine on carbs, but you wanted your life to be a living representation of what your nutrition lifestyle has done for you. And when I heard that for the first time, I looked at Taylor and both of us were just like, as fellow disciples in following Jesus Christ, that's exactly what he teaches too.
Yeah.
And the quote that is an anonymous quote, and it says, preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. So I just think that you're a phenomenal example of that. And it's truly a pleasure and an honor to have you on our show. So welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for having me. That quote, by the way, like the college I went to, that was one of the main mantras so it's instilled in me, and clearly through the nutrition field, that's kind of, it just radiates throughout the whole life. When something becomes centered to who you are, you can't help but let it infiltrate the rest of your life. So
absolutely.
Yeah, you didn't say it on the show, but I was like, I'm pretty sure that's like where her inspiration to live that way has come from. So, and it totally shows.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
What college did you go to?
So I actually went to a Catholic college. It's Franciscan University of Steubenville in Ohio, and majored in theology and catechetics to do youth ministry. So I was once a youth minister, and then went through other paths that God took me on, and worked with developmentally disabled adults for a year. And then eventually came back to youth ministry, but then I knew God was calling me a different path. It was just kind of a temporary, and then went into teaching. So still kind of the same area, just without the religion part of it.
Yeah.
Got married, had my son, and then became a stay-at-home mom. So
awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you guys. I'm already thinking right now we're going to have to do a follow-up on this episode on like just strictly theology, because that is, at least to me, 10 times more exciting than this.
I do have to, it's so funny, we're both putting in like little quotes, but I saw this on Instagram yesterday. I was having a hard mom day, and it said, your greatest contribution to the kingdom of God may not be something you do, but someone you raise. Oh my gosh, that was so good. So when you talk about being a stay-at-home mom, it's a hard job. So
it is. And to be completely honest, at first, just the way I was raised, I always felt like I had to accomplish something. I had to be that female, that woman, that person that gets something done. I have a very type A personality. So it wasn't like a natural transition to become a stay-at-home mom. But at first, as he's an infant, a newborn, that was clearly, he needed me all the time. But I think towards like 6 months-ish, I was like, okay, what part-time job can I have now? And I did try different jobs. And it wasn't until he was about 2-ish, I really started praying hard about it. And there was something tugging in my heart. I couldn't tell what it was. And there was, as Catholics, we have these prayers called novenas. They're 9-day prayers to help with discernment. So I prayed a novena, and at the very last day, it just hit me that I was trying to find jobs to avoid motherhood, because I was too scared if I could actually do it properly or correctly, or if I'd mess up. And I was like, someone else can take it during the day. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, where I was like, I can't avoid it. I can't avoid motherhood. This is what God is calling me to do. This is my vocation. So even though I loved the job I was at, I had to let my boss know, like, I have to stop because I have to go do, which was really cool because I was working for the church at that time. So they understand that aspect of following God's calling. And yeah, it's been a life changer, making me face things that I didn't want to face, and grow in the midst of it. So yeah, now that my son is in school, and I have a little extra time, I was like, well, I can actually grow the coaching business that I've been thinking of doing for a couple of years.
That's so awesome. Well,
hey everybody, this is Colt. Hope you're loving this conversation as much as we are. A quick minute-long break before we get back into the rest of the interview. On our last episode with Bernardo, that was episode 75, we talked about all things sports recovery, and the number one thing that he stressed, no pun intended, was stress management, and more specifically, sleep. Now, we have a supplement called Relaxadrol that has really helped us with sleep whenever we need to take it and having a hard time winding down. It's been a stressful day or whatever, or we're not going to get enough sleep, and so we want to make sure that we get the most of it. Taylor's going to highlight what that product has done for us.
Sleep is so important when it comes to building muscle, even weight loss, just having healthy hormone levels. And a lot of people do have trouble sleeping. And so one product we really wanted to highlight today is melatonin. We have a supplement called Relaxatrol, which is a melatonin-based sleep aid through metabolic nutrition. It helps improve REM sleep. It helps reduce anxiety and tension during high times of stress. It promotes deep sleep and a healthy restorative sleep pattern. It also optimizes natural testosterone, thyroid, and HGH output. It aids in immune system health and boosts your metabolism and recovery. If you guys are looking for a wonderful melatonin-based supplement, this is what you want. On our website, Relaxatrol by Metabolic Nutrition, Colt and I both use it. We love it. It's been absolutely essential in everything that we do. And just wanted to highlight that for you guys. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the episode.
I just want to know, like, kind of what your journey started off as when you went keto. I know with listening to the Keto Savage podcast, it was kind of just to help with your epilepsy seizures, if that's what I remember. So if you want to just kind of talk about that just a little bit, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, sure. So I was originally diagnosed with epilepsy when I was 12. We have a feeling it might be a little bit of a misdiagnosis in the sense of there's many different types of epilepsy. So anyways, that's a little sidetrack, but so I was diagnosed when I was 12 and would have occasional seizures. It wasn't all the time. I have a feeling it had to do with my cycle where the hormone part was at. So then different medications throughout my life, switching them. When I was in high school, I was on a medication called valproic acid or Depakote, and it made me get up to 240 pounds. Wow. I got severe pancreatitis, was hospitalized for over a week, and then they said it's your medication. So after that, switched medications, was getting more seizures, and it was this ongoing battle. Normally in the epilepsy world, they do about after 2 medications fail, 2 to 3 medications, that's when they start looking at dietary interventions. I didn't learn that until much later. I was like, why didn't they do that for me?
I was going to say, that's crazy they didn't do that at first.
Yeah, and the fact that keto was used for epilepsy in the early 1900s for children, it's like, why not try it? And for most adults, they will do modified Atkins. So instead of real ketogenic, for people who don't know, you have to weigh everything. You have to, like, if you're making scrambled eggs, you're going to scrape every piece of butter and everything off of the pan. It's very, very strict to be therapeutic. So they usually do a modified Atkins for adults, which is basically stay under a certain amount of carbs and then eat all the protein and fat you want. So I learned about this when I approached my neurologist after my son was born in 2016. And I was on a lot of medication. I was basically overdosing through her prescription. My liver was taxed. My liver enzymes were sky high. So when I told her, she had just said, well, let's try the modified Atkins for you. And I was like, okay. I knew nothing about keto except that it was some sort of weight eating and it had to do with fat. I was like really basic. She gave me a book. I kind of read it. It was not the full Atkins, but it was kind of a abbreviated version of the Atkins book. And I asked her someone that can help me. She didn't have any resources, which I was really surprised because it's a pretty prestigious epilepsy hospital.
Yeah.
So I just had to kind of start on my own. And I went low carb first. I saw some changes in my weight, but everything else stayed the same. I still was getting auras, which is the part that comes right before a seizure. So I'd get the auras, no seizure. And then in the future, it was in 2017 or 18, my husband and I watched a documentary on Netflix that was all about ketogenic, and it was very objective. So there wasn't any agenda really in it. It really was just telling the stories of people who did ketogenic and their lives were changed. So we said, okay, and it gave enough for us to get started. And he was in the middle of a giant flare-up with his colitis. So we said, okay, well, let's try it. Let's do it. And he was doing it just to support me. He was actually going to try juicing instead, which we're very glad he didn't, because it would have had a horrible effect on him.
Sorry to interrupt. When you said that on Robert's show about the juicing, I'm like, wait, she's on a natural bodybuilders podcast, right? Oh wait, no, juicing as in juice, not as in.
Oh, Yeah. No, it was definitely like he was thinking of doing celery juice and carrot juice and all those things.
Yuck.
So yeah, it was really helpful to have him by my side and us learning and just downloading tons of podcasts and information.
Yeah.
We made all the typical mistakes, like the stevia we bought was mainly maltodextrin, which spikes the blood sugar higher. So we went through our bumps, but we kept pursuing because both of us were seeing changes. For him, he saw changes first. His flare-up was gone within 2 to 3 weeks, and he was off his medication in about 5 to 6 weeks. So
Wow.
he's been free of any flare-ups for 4 years. He was having it for 13 years at that point.
Gosh.
And then for myself, being that it was controlling seizures, it had to be much more of a gradual approach. I bought a Keto Coach blood monitor to measure my ketones to make sure I was in ketosis. And I went from 4,000 milligrams of Keppra and 500 milligrams of Zonogram, that is above and beyond the max already that I'm supposed to be on. I'm completely off the Zonogram. And then the Keppra, I am down to 2,000 currently. My doctor has given me permission to lower it again, but I'm just waiting for that right time.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel any negative side effects from it anymore. A lot of the auras and panic attacks and anxiety and depression, everything I was feeling were actually the side effects from the medication.
Wow.
So both of us are doing well. I take care of my mom here, who is technically legally blind, and she has a little bit of eyesight left. So her being on keto, it's affect her as well. Her eyesight that she has left has been able to stay longer than they expected. She reversed her non-alcoholic fatty liver. She's lost weight. So yeah, our whole family, we just eat this way and thrive.
That's amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. That's kind of been the same thing with our family too. It's like we kind of went paleo, and then everybody else started going paleo, and then we went keto, and everybody else started going keto, and then we were like, wait a second, we don't need to eat vegetables, and then kind of started going carnivore after that. I'm curious. So you've been tracking your ketones. I do the same thing, and my goal as a bodybuilder to try to optimize muscle mass is always to see how much protein I can get away with. First of all, because I love eating protein, I love meat, and my body, like, it definitely craves it. Like when I go keto, so normally my macros are 66% protein and 33% fat. So I'm eating like 400, 500 grams.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, and that's still in a deficit too. And if I go lower, like if I get down to 200, or even below 200, my body just kind of wants to crave it more. So my goal when I'm in ketosis is to try to push the envelope with the protein as much as I can without knocking out of ketosis. So I'm just curious if you've experimented with like trying to see how much protein you can get away with and still remain in ketosis.
Yeah, so I haven't really tried pushing the envelope on that very much. I'm not as strict anymore as far as making sure I reach this much fat or whatever. It's really, eventually, you become intuitive on what cuts work best for you and all that stuff. So for example, actually, let me back up for a second. So I've had to cut out dairy. I know that. Like I'll have dairy occasionally, but I know what it's going to do to me. I know it's going to kick me out of ketosis. I know that's the PCOS part of it, where my ketones get dropped down and my sugar gets skyrocketed. So I'll do it if I have to just prepare and know what's going to happen. But as far as the actual protein macro, I focus on getting at least 100 to 120 grams. I only measure, like as far as tracking, like once a month to make sure and actually today's the day I'm doing it, to make sure I'm still on track and meeting that goal. Cause we can swerve and get off our track. But I feel like that just using carnivore for epilepsy is already so new. And there's no studies on it or anything. It's just the aspect of being in ketosis. I get nervous with the gluconeogenesis aspect if I do too much protein. So if my body's going to switch it into glucose, which I know it does naturally, my blood sugar is already, it's only like 0.5 to 10 points higher than when I was keto, which is very normal. Yeah, I want to be careful with that. I do eat higher protein than I used to, I can say that. Considering it's carnivore, that's kind of hard to avoid.
Right.
But yeah, I haven't really experimented on that end.
Wow. So do you have any concerns with gluconeogenesis as kind of taking more of a front seat to your fuel source as opposed to ketosis?
Not really. So I used to get nervous. I've been carnivore for almost a year now. It'll be in a couple months, it'll be a year. So at first my ketones were always rocking. They were always high, between 1.5 to 2. So I was getting a lot of fat. And then also I had started working out, lifting weights a few months after that. So I think that kind of helped to balance it out. And I've been doing that since. So normally that helps, you know, without getting into all the science of it. You're exerting all the energy and it's burning the glucose and then getting to the fat. So I'm not worried too much about it anymore. Now that I kind of understand the science of it all, I'm not worried where I'm at. It's more about if I push the envelope with more protein, then yes, I would be, because again, therapeutic, you need to be in ketosis, and I don't really want to play with it yet as far as getting out of ketosis and using more sugar. I mean, I have the days where that just naturally happens. This week, for example, I've been pretty much 0.5 ketones this whole week until I fasted yesterday. And I wasn't sure what it was. And then I remembered I'd been having the dairy. So I know that my body can control the seizures in minimal ketosis, but I don't want to play too much yet. I'm very careful with stuff like this.
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
It's been, I think 2005, 15, 10. Yeah, it's been 16 years since I've had a seizure.
Wow.
So I want to keep that going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't mess with that.
So am I understanding this correctly, that it sounds like when you're out of ketosis for whatever reason, you'll do like a quick intermittent fast and that kind of knocks you right back into it?
Actually, a little bit more than an intermittent. I just naturally intermittent fast most times. So I'm normally like a 16 to 18 hour faster. I purposely do not fast a week before my period because I know that can cause hormonal disruption. So that one, I force myself to eat breakfast. I don't like stuff heavily, but so that's my typical thing. And then to get into a deeper ketosis, I'll try and push as close to a 24-hour fast as I can. So yesterday was a 22-hour fast. In the morning, I was 0.5 ketones, 110 was my glucose. And that was after the dawn effect. So I knew I needed to do some cleansing. So yeah, I ended up a 22-hour fast and my ketones went up to 2.4. My glucose went down to, I think it was like 84, but it could have been even lower. There was a situation that happened right before that made my adrenaline running. So I think that was more of an effect of that part.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really helpful to get into a deep state pretty quickly to do a longer fast. Yeah. I don't do it too often though. It's just if I really start feeling the brain fog and stuff.
Great. Do you teach this to your clients to go more intuitively, or do you have them follow more of like a strict, like you're not intermittent fasting Monday through Saturday and then Sundays you fast, or do you like work with them and talk with them every day and say like, well, how are you feeling? Like maybe you should fast today. Maybe you should eat more protein, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, good question. It really depends on the client. It really depends on the person. Where are they at? So I've had clients that are gung-ho and they're like, oh, I got to be careful with, I'm fasting in this window and I don't know how to adjust. And I'm like, just stop, because fasting can become a stressor and not necessarily a bad one, but it does create a stress on the body. So you got to be careful with that. If you have all these other stresses in your life too, let's balance it out. Don't worry about the fasting. Let's get you, the main thing I get them to do first is just the way of eating.
Yeah.
Just figure it out. Figure out what foods you like, that whether it's keto or carnivore, what are the cuts of meat you like? Let's make sure you're eating high fat. Let's make sure you're limiting the carbs. Are you having temptations? Let's figure out the root of that. So a lot of it's kind of even psychology in the sense of behavioral approach, getting to the root of things. Once that starts looking like they got the handle of it or a handle on it, that's when we say, okay, let's look at your eating window. Do we need to tighten it up at all? Or is it like a 16-hour eating window? And then we pull it closer. So that's when we incorporate fasting. And then after that, the last like month or two, we start talking about stress management and lifestyle factors, movement, exercise, play, etc.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Let's see. Okay. This question here is something I already know what your answer is going to be, but I just think it'd be great for everybody to hear it. I'd like to hear your perspective on it too. We both noticed that you follow a very clean approach to the carnivore diet where like, right now I'm not too concerned about my calories. I'm actually trying to eat as much as I can. So I'm doing a lot of like protein supplementation and everything to where like I'm still hitting the macros of a carnivore diet, no carbs, but it's a lot of stuff that isn't like, I guess, whole foods based, right? There's some processed foods and some like yogurt and stuff in my diet right now, which I should probably clean up once contest prep starts. But do you ever do like any sort of processed foods or anything, even if it is clean and if like you're super careful about what the ingredients are, like looking for maltodextrin and stevia and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I guess you could compare it to like a food pyramid where, okay, the bottom part, if we're speaking carnivore now versus keto, so the bottom part would be like all the ruminants, the animals and all that stuff. And then, the pork and the fish and all that. And it goes higher and higher. So that peak part of the food pyramid, I would say, is like the processed meats, the roast beef, the turkey, the pepperoni, salami, all those powders and stuff. So I don't say to not have it. I do have it sometimes. We have roast beef and pepperoni in there now, but it's really the most minimalist part of my diet. So I'm not having those things every day. I'd say if it's in a pinch kind of thing, I'm rushing out the door and I didn't meal prep, let me grab something real quick. Let me grab some salami and pepperoni or whatever. Yeah. Or I might make a quick shake with a certain protein powder that I have that uses grass-fed beef. So it's definitely the smallest part of my diet. I don't, first of all, it's expensive. And the nutrient dense aspect of it isn't as nutrient dense as having like leftover steak. Sure. Yeah. So my main thing is not just the macros. I think a lot of people are starting to understand the concept of you're supposed to limit your carbs, you got to meet your protein, even excel past it if needed, and the fat is the satiety level. What many people tend to forget though is the micronutrients. So just because you're matching your macros does not necessarily mean you are doing what is best for your body. So, I mean, people that don't incorporate fish, they need to figure something out to get their omega-3s, for example. And, people that are meeting their macros, eating lots of liver every day. That's a whole nother topic, which is pretty big in our space right now. But I do incorporate liver, but it's like 1 to 2 ounces a week as a little multivitamin. So
basically all you need.
Yeah, no, it's true. And if you look ancestrally, I mean, they weren't killing a new animal every single day and eating the liver every single day. They had to split it amongst their family, their herd, whatever, it would be called. So that's kind of where I stand on that.
Well, and two, when you get to like that top of the pyramid, like you were just saying, it's like that's kind of when you have more additives in the foods, like with salami and pepperoni, there's a lot more preservatives, and so your gut isn't going to feel good either at that point. And so it's just like, why would you want to sacrifice that portion of it? So
exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of going off of the same subject again, I'm 99% sure I know what your answer is going to be, but we have clients that'll ask this, not so much clients, like if somebody, you probably notice this, if somebody buys into the plan and they make a commitment, it's like they're pretty much sold out and they're going to do whatever it takes and they're going to follow the diet exactly as you recommend. I guess it's more questions that we get just from skeptics of the carnivore diet or any elimination diet in general. which is, can we have cheat days? Like, I really don't want to give up my ice cream. I don't want to give up my pizza. I don't want to give up whatever, whatever non-diet friendly food it is. And wondering if there's like, do you have a day of the month where it's like, okay, our whole family is getting ice cream, or our whole family is going to this restaurant or something?
Mm-hmm. So our family doesn't, because we know how we feel afterwards, and it doesn't feel good. My mom at first, when she first moved in with us, there would be certain days where she would go out with some friends that she meet, and then afterward and have the pizza. And then she started noticing, I thought it was the fat that bothered me, but it's the pizza, it's the bread, and then so not having bread anymore, she realizes it. So she doesn't want it. So the association between the negative consequence and what we thought was making us feel good is finally connected for her. Yeah. So our family normally doesn't. If we do, it might be like there's a local pizza place called Lou Malnati's, and they have a sausage-based crust kind of thing. I'm sure there's some oils in there, but it's once in a blue moon we actually go out. My son, he's 5, so it's funny you say this. We educate him and try to help him learn the side effects of certain foods to make that correlation. He's still young. There's certain things he doesn't get. But yesterday there was a Valentine's party at his school. It was a family fun night. So we all went, and it was Valentine's and Sundays. So there was ice cream sundae. He had a little bit with chocolate, and I'm like, all right, you pick what you want to do. We'll make this connection later. So he had that. He had a Rice Krispie treat and a lollipop, which normally he knows to avoid the red ones, but he ended up they gave him a red one. No lie, he was a complete train wreck. Like, we were headed out, and it was tantrum meltdown central.
Yeah.
It took a while to calm him down, and he started hitting and everything, like banging his head on the back of the seat, which, in case your listeners don't know, my son has autism, and it's like a high functioning kind. So that right there is one of the red flags that it has triggered the autism part that was starting to get under control. So he's banging his head and freaking out. So and we haven't connected the dots with him yet. We'll do it this afternoon. But we want him to understand, like, we don't want to just be the family that says, no, you cannot have that. That's against the rules. He has to get the connection why. Because then otherwise rebellion will happen in the future, and then they'll just So our family doesn't. As far as clients go, if they say, I really can't survive the week without a plate of pizza or without a bowl of spaghetti, I'll be like, okay, what day are you having the spaghetti? Tell me. And they'll, okay, Saturday. Okay, well, eat the way you're supposed to the whole week. Saturday, have your spaghetti, and then report back to me afterwards and let me know how that goes. And
sure
95% what was that?
I'm sure that doesn't last too long when they decide.
No, that's the thing. It's like 99% of the time oh my gosh, it felt horrible. I mean, I was just on the phone with a client today, before she just recently started, and she already had purchased some donuts for the house. Like, this was a special purchase that ahead of time. So this was this last week, and I said, so did you have the donut? She said, well, yeah, I had a bite. But right after, I realized I didn't like the taste. And I was like, good. So I like it to be more of a natural, instead of feeling restricted, they know they have that choice to have it. And it really does come from them. So part of the coaching I do, I want to empower them to be able to make the decisions themselves instead of me telling them what to do.
Wow. I love your approach. I can tell. No, your clients are definitely lucky to be in business with you, because you have a heart and you really understand what's going on in their head. I'm trying to get there. I'm not that nice yet.
But the difference between that is you're a bodybuilder, and you you're sacrificing for a purpose.
I'm basically like, do you want abs or do you want donuts? You can't have both.
Yeah. He's very black and white.
There's a time and place for that. There are some people that need the tough love, and that's more of my approach in the beginning, the way I was explaining it. It's if they're 5 weeks in or 8 weeks in and saying they want a donut, I'm gonna be like, come on, better. Absolutely. But I have one client currently that's definitely a tough love person. She'll ask me, can I have this? And I'm like, no, you know better. She's like, you're right,
Yeah.
But majority of my clients, it's the other way.
Yeah.
Right. And I was exaggerating a little bit, but you're absolutely right. It's this industry is a it's a one-to-one. You got to handle each case, each relationship very individually.
Well, one size doesn't fit all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Great. Okay. So that being said, when somebody comes to you and says, like you haven't heard from them in 3 days, it's never a good sign, right? And they come to you and they're like, okay, this entire weekend, I literally ate a whole bunch of carbs. I don't even want to talk about it. How do I get back on track? What do you say?
Yeah. So that can happen. That's part of the behavioral approach part where I'll be like, all right, well, what did you do today? And most of the time, again, I'd say 99% of the time, they're like, well, I'm back on track today, but I don't want to talk about that. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to, because unless you want to keep failing, we have to address it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about, we ask a lot of, it's a very Socratic method in the sense of, okay, what was happening right before? And then, maybe she's like, well, I had a really busy day with work. It was stressful. And then my husband came home and complained about this, whatever, okay. So it seemed like you had a lot of stress. So and we just talk about that progression of what you were feeling. And then what did you feel during the indulging aspect of it? And then immediately after, like literally while you're eating and 2 seconds afterwards, and then like an hour afterwards. And sometimes it's kind of mixed up, but the reason I say that is because we do get that immediate gratification from the food, from the donut, from the cookie, from the chips, whatever. But I have to help them connect that part with an hour later, not just physical symptoms, but, maybe there is bloating and gas and whatever, brain fog, but also, do you feel happy inside that you chose that? Do you feel yourself, or do you feel guilt? And then if you do feel guilt, why? Why do you feel? So it's really a lot of like whys. Tell me more about this, and really getting to the root of it.
So is your goal in trying to get to the root of it usually to try to figure out like, okay, are they working out too much? Like, why are they craving these carbs in the first place? Like, are they, did I accidentally like underfeed them this week, and maybe like they're just kind of starving for nutrients and I didn't know, or like maybe there's like an underlying kind of like spiritual issue where they're stressed and it has nothing to do with their diet.
I think all of those really, asking those questions, it can lead to realizing, you know what, well, I didn't eat enough that morning. So I got a little hangry, what's that acronym? HALT, hangry. Yeah. Angry, lonely, tired.
Yep. That's exactly it.
Yeah. So like,
I just heard that a few weeks ago. Exactly. That's it.
Interesting. My husband told me a few years ago. But yeah, if it's like one of those things, a lot of the times I would think it's more of an emotional eating, because especially if they've been doing this for a little bit, meaning like a few weeks to a month, and then all of a sudden they backslide. It's like, okay, well, what made you backslide? You were feeling great, So a lot of the times it's the emotional part. I haven't really had too many people that undereat, honestly. I do have one client right now that may be part of it, but we're working through it and seeing like, okay, well, let's see what your body's telling you, So we'll address it in another week or two and see if she gradually because she just started like a week ago. So she's in the beginning stage. And I'm like, well, there might be some adjustment going on. Let's wait another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's not under eating. Most of the time it's some sort of emotional connection, boredom, things like that.
For sure. Just those emotional triggers.
Exactly. Even like an environmental one. It might be something as simple as maybe the spouse is not on board and they're still eating their pasta, their bread, and they might smell toast. And it's just the environmental part that triggers, ooh, that smells good. I think I want some, So it can be a number of things. But those are typically the ones that I come across.
Yeah, that's wonderful. My coach always taught me that he goes, if you're hungry and it's late at night and cold turkey with mustard on it sounds good, or like a piece of cold steak from the fridge sounds good, eat it because you're probably hungry. But if that doesn't sound good and something sweet sounds good, probably not hungry, and you're trying to fix a this is a Muslim that told me this too, but even he, with his faith and his beliefs, he was able to share with me a lot of things that I was able to apply to my relationship with God that I found very helpful with this. But a lot of times we try to fix a spiritual issue or an emotional issue, something physical and of this world, and it's a losing battle.
Yeah, that's really good advice that you got. And I have two thoughts. Hopefully I remember both of them. The first one is definitely right. And we tell our son, my husband tells my son this all the time when he's like, oh, I'm hungry. It's like, well, do you want some egg? Do you want some pork? No, I don't want that. Okay. We'll give different protein options. And if he doesn't want it, we're like, well, you're not really hungry then, and he gets all upset, but that's a solid fact. And if you're craving sweets, what I tell my clients is try taking some electrolytes, down some red mineral salt, guzzle a bunch of water, take some magnesium, because sometimes the sweet craving is a mineral deficiency.
Yeah.
That a lot of the times has helped my clients. So they start doing that. They're like, oh, wow, it went away. It's like, yeah, your body's just looking for some other minerals. So that's the way it tells your brain. The other part is when you said trying to fill a hole from the spiritual life, or their faith life, or whatever it is that ultimately God is made for. I remember learning as a teen, there's that God-shaped hole in our heart, and only God can fill it. It's like trying to take your house key and starting your car with it. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
You have to use the appropriate key for the appropriate holes.
For sure.
Only God can fill that hole, but we try and fill that hole with food, shopping, sometimes unhealthy addictions, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever. Yep. And we get that immediate gratification, but like I was saying earlier, the delayed gratification is not there. With God, though, our faith, whatever Christian faith someone is, the more they fill that hole with God, the more it's sustained and it lasts.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that. And see, I warned you not to get too deep into theology, direction this will go, but I can't not say this right now. John chapter 6, verse 27, do not labor for the food that perishes, but for the food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give to you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. There's a time where, okay, you actually need some food. Jesus fasted for 40 days. So, I mean, but you can definitely survive without food. Maybe that's an opportunity for you to get closer to your maker. Maybe that's an opportunity for you to do the fast. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's calling you a different direction. So,
yeah. I like that. That's deep. It's the uniting the suffering in a sense.
Yeah, the whole book of John is deep. Holy cow.
Yeah. It is.
You can definitely tell that's the guy that wrote Revelation.
Hey, everybody. So at this point in the episode, I owe you an apology, and that is because I don't know why, but we couldn't figure it out. There's some buzzing noise in the background. I don't know if it was the computer or the microphone or what, but we're trying to figure it out right now. So sorry about that. But yeah, the last 15, 20 minutes is going to be a little bit of a buzz, basically just like whenever I talk, and I hope that doesn't ruin your day. I love you. God bless. All right. Thanks for listening. Here we go. Back to the show.
Electrolytes. Do you have any go-to favorite electrolyte supplements? Like we like to use Celtic sea salt because it has so much potassium in it. So you use like a mineral salt, or when you say supplement electrolytes, kind of where does that come from?
Yeah, so it depends on what the person's goal is, but I think like if it's just salt that they need, then budget-wise is another thing. So I'll tell people to make soul water, which is basically just salt and water. I do highly suggest to all my clients to use Redmond's real salt because it's a very clean sea salt and it still has all its minerals in it versus like getting Morton's or something that has dextrose and
right. Yeah. Is that the stuff that I'm sorry.
I just got you.
That's the stuff that we just got?
Yeah.
Okay, so we just got that for the first time because we ran out of Celtic sea salt, and it's bomb. It tastes great, but on the back it says 0% potassium. So does it have potassium in it?
I don't think it does. So that's why I was saying if it's just like a salt, like suppose it's somebody that sweats outside all day and whatever, then I tell them to do that. And if they want to add, it's no salt, I think is what it's called. There's something called no salt where it's just the potassium part of the salt. And there's a certain measurement you can, so basically you would make the soul water. This is for the person that doesn't have much money to go buy Relight or anything else. They can make soul water in a mason jar. They just let the Redmond's real salt soak overnight and make sure no metal touches it because there's some kind of effect with that. So using a wooden spoon or a plastic spoon or something, scooping it into their 8-ounce glass of water, they can add some no salt to it, not a lot, it's very little, and then take magnesium on the side. Some people, that's a lot cheaper to do it that way because the no salt, I think you can get it at like Walmart for a few bucks. So, and it'll last you a really long time. So really the magnesium's the main thing that would cost. For people that money is not an issue, I let them know Relight is a good brand and they have flavored and unflavored. So if you want to use it during like a 24-hour fast, then you could do that. LMNT is also another one with Rob Wolf. So it's literally LMNT. And then another one that I like is the Keto Chow brand, and it's a liquid one. And it comes with like a little flask that you can refill and carry it with you everywhere you go. The one with the Keto Chow, though, the potassium and magnesium for me seems like it's still on the lower end. So it's not my go-to all the time, but for days like I'm going for a hike or something, it's an easy one.
Nice.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Well, thank you again for all of that. It is, I'm just getting more and more questions that I'm just dying to ask. I totally respect your time. I know that you got to get going in about 5 minutes. So we will lead you to that. There is one more question that I would like to ask. That is, we're doing good on time. Fantastic. Okay, so you mentioned towards the front end of our interview that God was throwing a lot of things at you, tribulation-wise, and challenges with health, and how you ultimately had to submit to His plan and trust that He was in control of everything. Brings us to Romans 8:28.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Romans 8 is my life, man. I love it.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's a lot better than James 4:9. Is basically. Anyway, all right. So Romans 8:28, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good for those who are called according to His purpose. So obviously, I knew that was one you were going to be familiar with based on what segment you were going through. So did you find that verse, or really just your faith in general with God's sovereign plan to give you peace through going through these tribulations and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel?
Absolutely. As much as I love talking about carnivore, keto, all the healing the food has done, none of it would have happened without my faith. None of it would have happened without church community. To be able to go to church every Sunday and worship Him and remember He is in charge. It's worth it all. And as a Catholic, makes it a little different with like the fact we have the crucifix, we have Jesus crucified, that we see, and we remember His suffering and the suffering He went through for our salvation. So it's a good reminder for me to see that and like, okay, He knows, He felt all the pain possible that anyone could have ever felt. Mm-hmm. And another fellow carnivore actually sent me something today. It was a quick 5-minute podcast, and it talked about trusting in the Lord for your children, like making sure you put all your trust in Him, with the fact that He loves your children more than you do. And to remember that and realize, you know what, wherever my son is at with his autism, God loves him unconditionally forever, and more than I can. And with how much I know I love him, it's like, wow, that's incredible. And that's how He loved us. So just focusing on his love, focusing on trusting in him, and all of that. Like he has a plan and a purpose for our life. So without a doubt, I mean, like you said, talking about theology, and not just theology, but spirituality, I could go on forever with that.
Is this a conversation that you have with your son regularly to help communicate to him that God loves him?
You know, so I started actually a month ago when I drop him off every day at school. I tell him, I want to give him reminders to remember, because it's really hard in life these days. So every day I drop him off, I said, Isaac, remember, you are strong, you are brave, you are smart, you are super loved, and you are an amazing child of God. So it's just the little things like that. I feel like for a young child, it's just little implementations. And even in the radio, whenever he's in the car, it's the Christian radio station. So he loves all his Christian songs. He loves J.J. Heller and Toby Mac and all these other ones. So, so yeah, it's the little places. I'm not drilling him with a theology course, but
hard for a 5-year-old.
Yeah. Although he has recently asked, we did talk about heaven and hell recently.
Oh, that's so cool. I can't wait for those comments.
You want to talk about hell?
No, but I can't wait for our kids to start asking us stuff like that. You know, I mean, we have a 2-year-old daughter. Our son's almost 4. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing when you finally can have those kind of conversations. Because he told me everybody goes to heaven, Mom, and I said, well, how do I approach this at a 5-year-old level?
Yeah.
And with he's a very in the box person. It's hard for him to see gray. It's very black and white. So I explained it to him the best I could for a 5-year-old, because he doesn't understand sin yet, and telling him, well, when people do things that God doesn't want us to do, there's a chance they might not make it depending on their relationship with God. It was something along that sense. And then he said, I guess there was like a week later where he told my husband, you're going to hell, Dad. And my husband was very confused on like, why are you saying this? Because he didn't do anything bad. He wasn't like hitting him or screaming at him. So I talked to him and I was like, well, this is what I told him last week. I said, did you do anything that to him would have been wrong? Like writing a letter a different way. You know, he's very particular. If you don't put this box in this way, that is wrong. So he thought about it and he realized, oh yeah, okay. It was something about on the trampoline. I don't know, but
yeah, that's so. Yeah,
I was like, see, so in his mind, that's wrong, and therefore you don't get to go.
Very literal.
So very literal.
Sounds
yeah.
Like James. That's funny. Well, thank you so much for your time. We so appreciate this conversation. Was wonderful. We're very glad we were able to make it happen. So
yeah. Thanks for having me on, and thank you guys for everything you do with the community.
Oh, thanks.
Just trying to follow God's plan.
Yeah, literally.
Trying to figure
exactly.
Yeah.
Where can people go to find more about you?
Yeah, so I'm very active on Instagram right now. It's kind of a lull period because I'm trying to finish my health coaching schooling. But yeah, on Instagram, find me Coach Jen Winkler. And I finally started my website. So that is theketogenicmom.com.
Awesome. We'll get those linked in the show notes for sure.
And then you do free coaching discovery calls, I understand?
Yeah, so they can head to either one on the website. Yeah, they can head to either the website, theketogenicmom.com, or to my Instagram profile. And there's a link in there to book a free discovery call. It's a 30-minute call where we just talk about what your goals are, make sure that I am a coach, that I'm able to help with what your goals are. And if it's not, I have a bunch of resources to people that I like. Bodybuilding, I wouldn't be somebody that can help with bodybuilding. So I would refer to you or to Robert or some other ones that I know. So yeah, that's the way we work there. And then depending on the call, we figure out which plan of mine works best for what they want.
Awesome.
Yeah, great. That's basically our business model in a nutshell too. And I love how you said too, like, hey, I'm honest. Like this is to see if we're the right fit for each other. And if we are, great, I think we'll have a great relationship. But if not, like you might be a better fit for somebody else. And yeah, no, like we'll have vegetarians like, I really want to do your workout, but I want to do it on a vegetarian diet. And I'm like,
Can't help you there.
If you have a vegetarian plan that has my name on it, and you're telling the world that I wrote that plan, I will not be able to sleep at night. So I'm sending you to Joe Blow over there. You know?
Yeah, no, exactly. To me, I think that's one of the ways my Christian background shines through is I want to be very transparent. I want to be very honest. I'm not in it to become a millionaire. I have experienced the
different business if that was our goal.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I've experienced the healing of carnivore and keto, and I just want as many people to be able to experience it as well. So
awesome.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I am amped after this. I got 20 minutes of cardio to hit, which I'm actually super motivated because of this talk. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need to do a follow-up on this. So
for sure.
Yeah, thanks so much. And God bless you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you so much. You too, guys.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on this interview with Jen Winkler. And I really hope that her words are as much of a blessing to you as they were to us. I'm sure they were. Now, before we started the technical interview questions and the actual conversation that we planned on having, we didn't realize it, but we were recording the conversation that we were having beforehand, which we always get to know the person that we're going to be interviewing for about 5 or 10 minutes before we actually start recording. But we ended up talking about our kids quite a bit and how meat-based diet has been helpful to their cognitive skills. And so Taylor and I looked at this like 5 or 10 minute clip and we're like, you know what? I think that would be valuable to put on the end of the podcast too. So for the next 5 or 10 minutes, you're going to listen to us talking about our kids and how a meat-based diet has been great for not just us as people and as parents, but also for our kids too. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I just finished listening to your interview with Robert Sykes for the second time, and I just have to tell you that it really tugged at both of our hearts, especially everything that you said about your son.
Yeah.
Because literally, I listened to it first, and I texted Taylor, and I was like, Taylor, you have to listen to this podcast, especially what she says at the end. Everything she says about her son is exactly the way that our son acts. Like
really.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Our son. So he's almost 4, yeah, before March. And he hasn't been diagnosed with autism. I've had him evaluated quite a few times. He's in speech therapy for just a speech delay, but there's a lot of things about his personality that are just like not awkward, but just a lot of like what you said, just with kind of socially like awkward with other kids and with adults, and just really kept to himself. But he's super smart, but yeah, just some certain things that
like
we've noticed.
Ridiculously smart with especially anything hands-on like Legos and stuff.
Yeah.
And like the stuff that he builds is stuff that like I don't see anybody else his age doing. So he's like way ahead there, but speech and everything. I mean, like literally it was like, wow, I swear she's talking about Jim.
How old did you say he was?
He'll be 4 in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is he similar with like the words and the numbers and reading and?
No. Well, I mean, I don't know. We haven't done a ton of like having him read. But his speech is pretty, like he's about 1.5 years behind in speech where he should be. This last year has been huge, like very transformative for him. Once we got him in school, but for that, it's still been a struggle.
Let us rephrase that. He is exactly where he should be in God's plan. But he's according to everybody else.
According to societal standards.
Yeah. So
yeah, no, I totally get it. My son Isaac just has like a natural tendency to want. So I haven't like. It wasn't that I was trying to see if he could read. That was just since before he could walk, he would grab books and try and read them and all. So
that's cool. That's really neat. Yeah, James. I don't know. I think we have to. I haven't really tried to get him to read, but it's amazing the things like that he remembers. Though it's like his memory never forgets. I kind of feel like he might have a photographic memory.
So he got tested when my son originally got tested. He was 3, and it's called the working memory part of the test. So he got tested first, and they were like, "We're not sure. Red flags. Get a comprehensive total test." And then we did that, and that measured like his IQ and working memory and all that. So the working memory is the one that helps with like pattern recognition, and you listen to something and then you memorize it like that. So his working memory was like off the charts.
Yeah.
So that might be the same with James.
Yeah, he's been evaluated by like the school district because we had to get him in speech therapy. But everything was done over Zoom. So I just don't think it was the best evaluation. But at this, I just don't even want him to get evaluated for it, because I think that for me, that's just a label. I don't know. It's a hard thing to to think about, at least for me, at least. I don't know about you, but
yeah, it was a hard one. My husband was the same thing as far as the labeling. His nephew has Asperger's, so I think it kind of runs in the family. And then obviously my epilepsy, autism and epilepsy are related. So
yeah.
So we, at first it was kind of hard, but we have found it to be a lot more resourceful than, more of a label. It's really up to the parents to decide how much of a label it's going to be. Is it more of a, okay, now we know how to address the issues? Like if we didn't get that diagnosis, our disciplining had to change, because, it's simple things like that when okay, that's what he has, and that's how everything changes around it. So
he sees like an OT because we're working with just like his emotional stability, because he's like bullheaded. And so like, why are we surprised that he is too? But we were seeing just like his emotions, like he's very emotional. And so we've been seeing an OT just to kind of help me to figure out how we can best help him work through his heavy emotions. And I do agree for sure, because for me, maybe the label is one thing, but I do agree with you. It's like, now that it's like you can figure out how to best help him and resources. And I think for us, like OT has been huge in that retrospect. So anyways, I don't mean to get off on a tangent. I just loved hearing your story about that, because it's like, oh, finally someone who's like kind of going through something that we're going through right now. And in this last year, we've really changed how we feed our kids, and how honestly that has been one of the best things we ever did, because we've always been very like aware of what we feed them from the beginning. But now it's like, now that we're really into carnivore and keto and we're noticing how different things affect them, it's been huge just for like who they are and like how they act and everything. So I loved hearing your side of that too. It was just have another parent like validate what we're doing, not the validation, but it's like we have so many people like kind of criticizing how we feed them. It's just nice to hear someone else's story with it too. So
cool.
Wow, what a cool lady. That's pretty much a wrap on this episode. So thank you, listeners, for joining us in this entire episode. If you found this helpful or entertaining, we ask if you would please share this with a friend. That'd be awesome. We'd love to hear what you think of the show. So any ratings or reviews that you have are very much appreciated. Don't forget to stop by our website. That is supersetyourlife.com. Grab yourself some coffee. If you're a parent, you probably need it. If you're not a parent, we got decaf too. So taking care of everybody. If you're a gym rat, don't forget about our skull cable attachments. We have a new episode every Saturday morning, so please subscribe to the show so you don't miss those. That's pretty much it. Thanks again. God bless you, and bye-bye.